Every standard that you lower is a message to the people around you and the world in general about how you are going to accept being treated. Whenever I started martial arts, I didn't really understand respect, and the way I was taught was the higher brothers and the masters, they just got your respect, and initially you didn't get theirs, but that didn't matter. You had to give them respect, and then you had to earn theirs. So because of that, I ended up doing things that I just would never really have done, or allowed people to treat me in ways that I just wouldn't have stood for if I understood what respect actually was. So the standard of respect in me, like where I grew up, we just respected each other. You respected the people from your park, the elders, your bosses, because they showed you respect as well. But when I entered the martial art world, it was more hierarchy than respect. And I think a lot of people get, not a lot of people, I suppose, but there's certain environments where people confuse respect with dominance. And if you don't really get that, you don't understand it, you'll think you're showing them respect, but you're actually allowing them to dominate you. And when you allow someone to dominate you, it stops your growth. It stops you from thinking for yourself and expanding your mindset, your understanding of the way that you perceive the world, because you actually are perceiving it mostly through what they are dictating to you. So that was one of the standards that I had lowered. Initially, I didn't even notice I had lowered it. I just, because of the way I used to just give out respect, I just did what everybody else was doing. I did what I thought was normal, but it turned out the normal wasn't exactly respect. It would have been more dominance. Over time, that changed, and I like to think I had a bit of influence in that because of the attitude I have to life and the way that I treat people. So I don't treat people the way that I think they should be treated. I treat people the way I would like them to treat me, no matter what's going on. And I have been fucked over in the past because of this, but I don't hold any grudges towards that, because if I could go back and redo it, I would just redo the same thing. I still would treat people the way I wanted to be treated. The way they treat me is on them. It's a reflection of them, not a reflection of me. So think about the standards that you have and how often that they're not set in stone. They're flexible. You allow certain people to bend them, like certain friends are a bit of a dick, so it's easier just to let them bend your standards just for an easier life, or your boss is an asshole, so you just put up with stuff because of that. There's some places that you're going to have to put up with it a wee bit, but you still want to, even if you're allowing them to, like the boss, for example, dominate over you. If you're allowing that, at least then when you go away, you can explain to yourself why. It seems silly, but I would talk to myself and say, well, it's just easier to let them think they're dominating me, but they don't take up any more mind space than this conversation I'm having right now. And then you move on with the rest of your day. Don't let them dominate your free time as well. So a few things that I've wrote down here are standards or boundaries that define identity. So your standards are your boundaries that define your identity. If I am someone who gives respect and wants respect back, if I'm someone who doesn't put up with people like talking shit about other people or talking shit about myself, then if I live that, then if you spend time with me, you're going to notice, well, you know what, we can't really talk shit around him. We can't really give him too much grief because he'll come back. I used to be brutal for that. Back when I was younger, I would go straight up jugular. Someone would call me a baldy whatever, and I'd be like, well, this is you, and then I would find the jugular and just go straight for it, which isn't beneficial to anyone either. So thankfully, as I got older, I grew out of that phase. So think about your standards and remember that they are your boundaries for how people are going to identify you and how they're going to react to you and interact with you. So if you notice that you keep attracting in assholes, whether it's in your work life, relationship life, gyms, club life, life, it's probably the way you're presenting yourself to the world that's attracting these people in. So rather than just justifying it or thinking, oh, it's just the way it is, think about how you're interacting with these people, how you're interacting in the spaces that you're in, and ask yourself, is there any wee changes or standards that you could bring in that would actually change this outcome? The next thing I wrote are people and habits rise or fall to what you allow. I used to get this a lot when I coached. People would say like their spouse is being so rude to them and treating them like shit. And what really frustrates them is when they go to a party or they meet them at work or they go to a friend's house that they're the nicest person ever. And that's because they know they wouldn't get away with it out in that environment, but they can get away with it in the environment you're allowing them to get away with it in. So again, it's taking ownership and responsibility for what you put up with. So I have no problem just leaving a conversation if the person's being super negative, if they are talking me down, if they're talking other people down. I don't care. I'll just leave. I'll just walk away. If they're family or close friends, then I'll explain to them, I don't enjoy this conversation. I think that everybody's got their own shit going on in life, and you sitting here bitching about somebody else is more a reflection of you than them. So how about we talk about something else? If you're happy to do that, it's not as easy as I just laid it out there. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But if you're happy to do that, then you're reinforcing your boundaries for yourself. If you don't want to be the point of gossip, you probably don't want to be in like elevating the gossip for other people. So think about your standards. Think about how you're projecting yourself to the world and how you're interacting in the environments that you're in. And then what would you like to do what would you have to do to make all these interactions better, to uphold the standards you actually want to have? And it's important to have standards that you uphold, not just standards that you like to think about. The easiest example is someone saying like, I'm very charitable. And you go, oh cool, when's the last time you did anything for charity? And they go, not that way long ago actually. So you give to charity every so often. Like I wouldn't consider myself charitable, but I do one charity event every year. This year it raised over 109,000. So that's pretty fucking good. But still only one a year, so I wouldn't say I'm a charitable person. I actually chose one a year because when I was doing talks and doing all the Prove It Guy stuff, I kept getting asked to do multiple events and I'd end up doing loads. So I just made my standard that I'm going to pick one a year and I'm just going to work with that one. So the standards are your boundaries that define your identity. People and habits rise or fall to what you allow. And then I wrote, the silent message of your actions is stronger than your words. So we all have heard this before. Action is stronger than words. There's variations of it, but how you actually, like I said a second ago, you can have your boundaries and your standards, but if you just let people treat you like shit, then these don't matter anymore. You need to actually take these and connect them to how you allow the world to treat you, how you interact with the world. So this is your action step for the week. The raise one standard. Pick one area where you've been letting things slide. Write the new rule and stick to it for 7 days with no exceptions. So an easy example could be say you're in the gym and you've got a training partner, or you're training for some event, or you just like to train together, but they're starting to slack and you're allowing yourself to be pulled down to their level because you don't want it to be awkward, or you don't want to point out to them that they're being fucking lazy. That's your standard that you want to notice. Make a new rule. So the slacker they get, the harder I'm going to work. So that's the way I would have done it. Like when we were doing grappling or wrestling or whatever, and they're like, oh, we'll just take a wee easy session today. The easier they wanted to go, the harder I would want to go, the more energy I'd put in, the faster I would go. So then I'd be thinking in my head, if we're at the same level, because we train the same way and we have been, but they're starting to slack, rather than me pulling down to them or just training the same so they're getting a wee bit, I'd be doubling up my training so the distance becomes massive. So then they either just notice it by the training, or somebody else points it out to them. Geez, you're struggling with Liam today. Normally you're doing all right. So I'm not letting my standard drop to them. So that will be an easy example. Feel free to reach out to me and let me know what standard you've decided to elevate and how you actually get on with it. So that's what I wanted to get across today. I've wrote a final wee thing here. Your standards build your life. If you don't decide what you'll accept, the world will do it for you. So if you don't decide how you're going to act and how you're going to allow people to act towards you, then they'll just decide that, and we don't want that because that's shite crack. So let me know how you get on with that. Have a super awesome day, whatever you get up to, and I'll speak to you again soon.